So I'm out here at the farm, and I don't know if y'all heard, but we actually had about 5 inches of snow out here in Houston last week, or earlier this week, I should say. It's Friday, um, and I've never seen that much snow. I've seen 1 or 2 inches before in the, I guess, 14 years I've lived here or so. So that was kind of crazy, and the temperatures got down into the 20s, so I had to figure out a way to make sure the seedlings were okay. Some of the things I did out here today, I don't know if you can see way out in the distance there, that is a purple martin house. I don't know if you know what those are, but it's a type of bird that they've actually become very accustomed, especially on the East Coast, to humans, in that people put up these birdhouses for them, and that's about the only way they live, especially on the East Coast, where they don't have the trees with cavities in them that they normally nest in. So people provide shelter for them by putting up these houses. Well, I don't know if you've heard of the European starling, but some European guy, I think from Britain, decided he would import a bunch of little starlings because he missed those birds when he lived out there. So he brought them over here in the, I think, 1800s or so, and they just decimated some populations here because they weren't native to here, and they were aggressive type birds, and kind of knocked out some of the natives. And one of those natives is the purple not starling, purple martin. So the starlings would take over their nests and stuff. Well, people came up with a way to keep the starlings out by making these starling resistant houses that have only a half moon opening instead of a hole. And that's what I bought. So I'm trying to attract some purple martins out here. They love to eat bugs, and they're good for having around the farm. So I had some of those old poles left over from putting up the deer fence. I didn't do the deer fence as long as I was going to, which was going to go all the way around the property. We stopped in front of the wood pile back there. So I have some extra netting and poles. So I used one of them. They like big, tall. The purple martins are kind of swift. If you ever seen those birds with the forked tails, and they fly really fast. Well, that's what they are. And they like to fly down from up high, kind of like a peregrine falcon does, and swoop down into their nesting area. They're kind of bird, I guess they're a little bit freaked out by other birds and stuff, but they do like to live together. So I think we have a 12 hole, so 12 nests, 12 different families of purple martins can live in there. The pole's a little bit shorter than they normally like because they like to be up high so they can look down, but I think, it's about 10 feet in the air. I'm gonna see if that works. If not, I have more of those poles. I might actually try welding them together. Now I have a welder. I don't know. It's an idea. So anyway, if you can see on the ground here next to the greenhouse, we still do have a little bit of the snow left over. Most of it's melted. It's in almost 60 degrees today. I was a little over 60 maybe. And the roofs of the buildings have been leaking, and then there's like puddles all the way around it from the snow melt. But my biggest concern was the seedlings that I started for tomatoes and peppers had to be started. And if you see, I made a greenhouse within a greenhouse. So I'm in the greenhouse. During the day, it's pretty warm in here, even in the winter. But at night, when the sun goes down and stops shining on the greenhouse, creating that greenhouse effect, it gets kind of cool in here. It gets almost ambient temperature. So what I did was I rigged up another greenhouse inside the greenhouse, and then I took my building air conditioner / heater, and I put it underneath. And I'll tell you, it was pretty toasty when I put my hand under there. When it was cold, it was probably about 80 degrees. So it's done its job. I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna leave it on one more night. It's supposed to go down into the 30s tonight, but you see the seedlings. The only problem with this was the plastic keeps trying to move and get on top of the seedlings a little. It's pushing them down a little bit. I think they'll be okay. They all seem to be living still, and once they take this off with the sunlight, they'll pop back up. So not ideal, but I think it's gonna work and saved a lot of starts. So you can see I'm starting to get some greenery in here, which I was surprised about. I thought I had that tarp on so long that any seeds would have sprouted, but they might have been the kind of seeds that needed sunlight to sprout. So they just stayed in the seed bed. I'm gonna start working on this next week, where I get this going with rows in here, so that I can be ready for when some of the greenhouse tomatoes do get ready to be planted. I do have a ton of work to still do in here. My seed starting bench is almost finished. I've been painting the top so it lasts. So I gotta finish that. I gotta put in on the bottom here, I built that box. That was a pain in the butt because it has to fit in this area. So I basically built a box, and this is gonna be the soilless medium. It's not soil, it's a combination of things, perlite and vermiculite, and mostly peat moss, and sometimes I use coco coir. But I kind of like the peat moss better. The coco coir has a lot of fluff. They say it's better for the environment because it's more sustainable, but I don't think we're running out of peat moss anytime soon, but they say we're going to someday. Anyway, I'm still using peat moss. I don't care what they say. I do use coco coir too, and if someone comes up with a better medium for growing seedlings in, I'm all ears. So, well, it's sunny for once. Had a lot of rain, basically standing in a lake. But today is the day that I am going to start getting beds ready. So I pulled back the tarp on just the first row in Field Block George here, and I'm adding compost on the top. So one of the things we did when we put in the beds was we put permanent posts to mark out the each bed on every side. I trip over them all the time. That's probably part of the problem with it. Man, it's sunny like this. But one of the nice things about it is you can put your lines back up. If you could see, I got my string line back up, so you can kind of fix your beds and make them look nice again. So I'm just adding some more compost on top. As this compost breaks down and the organic matter gets in the soil, it's going to really help with fertility. Compost itself is not all that fertile. What it is it's high in organic materials. So usually a compost is like a 111 or 101, and when I say that, it's the NPK levels, and nitrogen, potassium, and what's the other one? I can't think of it right now. So those things aren't it's not really, like I said, that fertile. It's not going to be fertilizer for your plants. It is a little bit, but you're going to have to add fertilizers to the way we're doing this, because it's until the organic matter breaks down and it feeds the soil biology, which will help with fertility later. It's really not all that fertile, so you got to add a lot of. I buy very expensive Microlife organic fertilizers to put on the rows, and I think I'm gonna have to use more than I did last year because it wasn't enough. So as you can see, I'm just adding to the top here. This is going to be the first row of carrots, and carrots need to go in this week or next week. So I started using this really cool program that I found online. It's called Seed Time, I think, and it basically helps you keep track of what needs to be done when, based on your area. So here in Texas, it's telling me I need to get my beds ready for carrots. So it also helps with when you're gonna start your seeds in the greenhouse, and get those ready so that they go out into the field at the right time, which is really nice. It's a really great program. I was looking for something like that. The University of Minnesota has created their own little thing, sort of, but yeah, it was a little harder to use, and I didn't really get involved with it as much as and then I saw this. It was very easy to use. I bought a lifetime subscription, so it wasn't that expensive, and it really works good. So all I'm doing here is I pulled the tractor up. The tractor is basically sinking in the field right now. It's so wet. I don't know if you can see it back there, but my pond is overflowed and everything's wet. I got trees coming for the orchard, so those got to go in sometime. I'm gonna have to trudge through the mud, I think. That's all right. I don't mind getting a little muddy. It's part of the deal. So I'm just filling up buckets. I don't want to drive the tractor on the ground here and compact the soil. So I'm driving the tractor up to the edge, filling a bucket, and bringing the bucket down and dumping it. One thing I forgot to mention is, if you look really closely, you'll see these little granules. That's what's called azomite. Azomite is a soil conditioner which has a lot of micronutrients in it. Things like zinc and copper, boron, stuff that's really needed for plants in small quantities. It also helps with the tilth of the soil as it breaks down. So it'll help the aeration and things like that. But azomite is really good to have. You don't have to put a lot of it down, and you don't have to keep putting it down, because once it's there, it's kind of there. But it's one of the best things you can do for gardening, to add those little micronutrients that you might not have in your soil. So I put some down before I put this on top. This is all going to get tilted with the tilter. It'll help mix it in a little bit. And if you see, I still have a lot of straw that was here from when the tomatoes were here last year. So, and even some tomato vines a little bit still in here. So that is just organic matter that will get mixed in and break down. It'll help feed and create good soil. So I'm leaving it in there. I don't want the big sticks like this. These sticks that are here. That's part of the walkway here. That's getting in my... When this gets really wet, it gets underwater sometimes, and the sticks float and then move, and they get inside my beds, and that's kind of annoying. Like this and these. Don't want them in there so much. You have too much wood material, it will tie up your nitrogen in your soil. Plants need a lot of nitrogen. So that is not good. Kennedy, you're loving life. So I'm here at a rest stop in Jacksonville, Texas, which is just south of Tyler. I was north of Tyler, picking up at R&T Nursery most of my fruit trees and berries for the farm. So I got two different varieties, six of each of blackberries, and I got 3 different kinds of blueberries, a bunch of fruit trees, and then inside we have more fruit trees for the most part, and a dogwood. There's the dogwood right here, and the rest of them are citrus. So we got a whole bunch of trees. The bulk of the orchard has been bought. We have a few that came in the mail, and some I got in person over at the farm already. But almost all the fruit trees are here now, and There's just a couple left. So most of them came from R&T Nursery. Very good looking trees here. A lot of them are bare roots, and then citrus you can't do bare roots with, but the rest of them are. Well, it's planting day out here at the orchard. So some of the plants I got, like a lot of the citrus, you can't get them bare root. You have to buy them in pots. A lot of the hardwood type trees, palm fruits and things like that, apples and peaches, you could get them bare root, which is a nice thing because usually bare root trees cost less because, usually people ship them and it's a lot lighter to ship them that way and less dirt and everything. So you can buy them for cheaper. But I drove up the other day a little bit north of Tyler to R&T Nursery and picked up a bunch of trees. And you can't let bare root trees sit without being planted for too long because the roots will dry out, and then they'll die. So I want to make sure, even though it's still too wet out here really to be planting, I need to get them in the ground. So I dug the holes earlier with the tractor, at least over there. Tried to dig them over here in the little smaller, these are 8-foot beds. Well, this one's not, that's a 12. But over there is 8-foot beds. And I tried to get the tractor on there and it started to sink a little and I didn't want to get stuck. So I'll just dig those by hand. But all the other, the 12-foot width beds, I was able to get the tractor on there and didn't sink too much. And the holes are dry. I dug down at least 2 feet and they're really dry. I'm going to use some of this. This is a combination of leaf mold compost and rose soil from the Ground Up, which is a really good company here in Houston. They're known for making high quality compost. If you see, I have this little weird bag, and what this is wool scraps, felted wool scraps that we got when we were in North Dakota a couple years ago. They just pieces of wool, basically. Oop, fallen. Just like little scraps of wool, and it's basically just fertilizer. It's nitrogen. It'll break down in the soil. So I'm gonna put one in each hole, just a little extra boost. It's good at soaking up water. So even if there is too much water, some of those will soak up the water and eventually break down and also feed the plants with fertilizer. So it was interesting little. This is a little $5 bag that it says felted fertilizer on it. I thought I'd try it. It's probably not going to work great, but it's not real fertilizer, but it will help. And I think it's a cool idea to recycle wool like that. So we went to this really cool place in Nome, North Dakota, I think it was, or near there. And it was an old schoolhouse that was converted into a bed and breakfast, basically. And they took the classrooms and kind of kept them looking like a classroom, but they also made it nice with beds, and it's just kind of neat. And I've never been to a place like that. And Jason found it when we were searching for places to stay, and he's like, I've always wanted to stay in places like this. He follows a lot of these like abandoned houses and abandoned kind of ghost town places online. And sometimes we take drives and go check stuff out like that. And he really, we took a big trip with the kids. I had never been to North Dakota. It was my 50th state. That was the last state I had to go to get off 50. Actually, that was my 49th state. Alaska was my 50th last year. So we took a road trip with the kids, went to all the, northern Midwest states, and hit North Dakota, hit Medora, went to the little Medora play that they have out there, and saw a lot of Teddy Roosevelt stuff. It was fun. Anyway, this is where we stayed when we were in North Dakota, one of the places, and it was really neat. And they took us on the tour of their wool making operation. So they converted it into a bed and breakfast, and the downstairs is their wool making operation. They spin yarn basically and sell it. So it was really cool. Something I'd never seen before or knew anything about, and I found it fascinating. So anyway, I'm going to use it this year and put it in my big holes. You can see where I dug these holes. They're kind of big. You want the holes to be at least 2 times wider than the root system and about half as deep. I went kind of deep, and there's a reason for that. We do have this does get really wet back here, especially this time of year in the winter, and I wanted it to be deep enough that I could get some good compost and rose soil in there. That'll help with drainage. So I'm gonna mix that with some of the local soil that I have as I fill it. So it should be pretty good that way, I think, and you know, it'll get better over time. Hey, it's Dave. It's early March 4th, I think. It's 2 days after Texas Independence Day. Just working on the gardens a little longer. Just adding compost basically to the top just to give it like a nice base. Like the base was, you know, originally about 5 or 6 inches, and then I added a little last year halfway through the season, and now I'm adding another 4 or so inches. I'm just trying to make the soil as best it can be, just by adding compost. I found a new compost place that's a little bit cheaper than I was getting, but it's not quite as good, but as like a base, I think it's pretty good. They don't compost it as long as like Nature's Way Resources or the Ground Up. This pile in the middle is from the Ground Up. That's there's 2 really good compost places in Houston. One is the Ground Up and the other one is Nature's Way Resources. I usually go with Nature's Way Resources because it's cheaper, just because it's closer. It's actually more expensive compost, but it's closer, so it costs me less. This new place is really close. It's down in Crosby, and I'm right here in Buchanan, so that's pretty good. I had to take the bare root trees and put them in buckets because I still have a freaking lake in the back. I thought today, it's been dry for about 5 or 6 straight days. I thought today it might be dry enough, but it's not. It's still like a big lake, and it's supposed to rain tomorrow. So the beat goes on. Just water and water and water. I might have to talk to my neighbor about our water situation. He has his runoff culverts going into my property, and it was fine because there was a pond there, and I thought digging out the pond real deep and then creating waterways between the new berms for the orchard would do the trick. But I'm finding out that in a really rainy year like it is this year, it's just not enough. So I'm gonna work on drainage more this summer with my tractor, and I'm gonna see if my next door neighbor can maybe make another way out to the drainage ditch in the front of our properties, so that when he does have a lot of flow, it can drain out a little bit that way too, so it doesn't all go into my yard. So other than that, I've been working on, you can see back there, see it looks sandy. That's sand. It's compost from the piles, and if you see the big pile of dirt back there from when I did the water drainage stuff, I still have a big pile of dirt. So what I'm doing is I'm raising the level of the ground a good probably 8 inches or so before I put the beds in, which is going to be another 4 or 5 inches. So I'm creating just kind of berms to create all my gardens, just because the water is so bad here and the drainage is bad, and when it's really rainy, I just need to keep stuff out of water. So yeah, I picked a perfect spot to make a farm in basically a swamp. So it'll work though. It's just I'm just gonna have to use a lot of compost and you know, create drainage and stuff like that. But hey, that's part of the job. It's kind of fun to figure it all out. I did start working on the Texas native garden and the pollinator gardens. I didn't do a whole lot to them yet, but I have some trees that I put in. Last year, I think I mentioned this, but I put in a Mexican plum in the pollinator side, and I put in a Texas persimmon in the Texas native side. That's all I really did last year in the fall. The Texas persimmon, you can eat them. They're small and they're like almost black when they're ripe. But people mostly make jam out of them out here. The birds and other wildlife that I'm trying to attract to the farm to kind of create this ecosystem, they really like it. So I thought it'd be cool to have. And then I put in a redbud tree, Texas redbud basically. And Texas redbud is the same as an eastern redbud, only it's a little bit smaller. And the flowers are a little bit darker, more of a purpley color. Some of them, if you've ever seen a redbud, they're not really red, they're more purpley pink. But the Texas redbud's a little bit darker. And then I put in a white dogwood, because that's the native dogwoods here in Texas. A pink dogwood is also, Cornus Florida is the genus and species name of the regular dogwood tree. There's also a thing called a roughleaf dogwood here that grows in the wild. It doesn't really quite look like a dogwood. It's a really great pollinator species. Lots of butterflies and things like it, but it's not as pretty. So I really love dogwoods. I had one in my house in Virginia, and that was a pink dogwood, and I wanted one of them too. So I put one on all the way on one side of over here. I put the white one in the Texas native garden, and then all the way on the other side to kind of mirror it, I put the pink one over there. So that'll be fun. What's nice about dogwoods and redbuds is early in the season, bees don't really have a lot of nectar and they're searching everywhere. I don't know if you could see it, but along the fence line, maybe I'll go over there. This thing called Carolina jessamine, and it's a really pretty little vine that grows in the wild around here, and I have it. It's all over right now. It's probably the first thing that really blooms in this area, and you see it right here. Really pretty little yellow flowers, and they almost look like trees. People think that it's a blooming yellow tree, but it's not. It's a vine that grows up the tree and then all the way through the tree, and it looks like it's a tree blooming, but it's just a vine. So that's the first thing. Bees like that. I had bees all over at the house because we had hairy vetch growing in our yard everywhere, which we pulled up this weekend, me and Jason, and made the front yard look nice again. And I took the vetch. Vetch is a legume. People plant it as a cover crop. It's really great for cover cropping. If you have grazing animals, it's good for that. One of my favorite regenerative farmers, he takes it and he grows it with I think it's triticale, and he sells it as hay. So yeah, that's Gabe Brown, by the way. Probably the reason why I started this whole regenerative process is because of Gabe Brown. He's a master at doing all this stuff on a large scale with animals and crops, actual, corn, soybean, all that stuff. I don't even think he grows corn and soybean because he thinks that you can't make money growing corn. So he does other stuff. I don't know. He might do some of it. Anyway, I put my hairy vetch in my compost over there because hairy vetch is, like I said, a legume, and it's got little nitrogen nodes all over it when you pull it up. So anyway, that's what's going on here. I know I need to make a new video, and this will probably be on it. So I'll probably maybe do that tonight, but yeah, it's a little frustrating. Been raining so much that I can't do some of the things. So this was my way to keep the bare rooted trees alive. You can put them in a cooler for a while, and I did that, but too long and they'll dry out and then they won't do very well. They seem to be pretty happy in there. I got one of the things I bought is this little guy. It's a little southern crabapple. So a lot of bugs tend to like apples, but they really tend to like crab apples. So if you plant one near your other apples, the bugs tend to go after the crab apple instead of your regular apples that you want to cut and bring. Plus, crab apples make great jams and and applesauce and stuff like that. Even pies, you can use crab apples because they're a little bit tartar. But that's not why I bought it. I bought it to be one of these things that the animals will go after, or the bugs will go after that instead of my regular apples. So I'll plant it nearby them. Hopefully it'll come after that. Anyway, I got that I bought it from this like online place that I found on either Amazon or Etsy, and it is very windy here. Look, we're about to get a storm. So I got it, and for like weeks it was supposed to be a bare root southern crab apple. They're hard to find southern crab apples, and I was trying to be using ones that are definitely crab apples. Most of them will grow in Texas, but a southern crab apple is definitely going to be better than something that grows in the north. So I wanted that specific variety, which is kind of hard to find. I found this place that was selling them, and this lady was real nice, but she was just too busy every week to dig one up at the farm. She finally got it to me last week, and I swear I took it out of the box and I wasn't even sure it was an apple tree. It had these like yellow little leaves on it, and it looked like it was, I don't know. She first thought I wanted a crepe myrtle, and I thought maybe she sent me that because it looked weird, but it leafed out like just in a couple days, and it's an apple tree. I could tell by the leaves. So I guess she got me the right thing, so that's cool. But I was a little concerned for a little bit, but especially with all the back and forth I did with her. She was just like, I could cancel it. I know it's been a while since I got it. I didn't get it to you yet, and I still have some things coming. I got some more grapes coming from Gurney's. They're muscadine varieties or muscadine crosses. I've got a lilac that's supposed to work in the south. I don't think it'll be as good as a regular lilac, but hey, beggars can't be choosers. You just can't grow lilacs in the south. But this one's supposed to do pretty well. I'm going to put it in the pollinator garden. I love lilacs. I'm going to try it. There's a quince coming this week to go in the orchard. Probably use that for making some quince jam or jellies and paste. They make quince paste, and it's if you don't know what a quince is, it looks like a little pear. They're not really good to eat fresh because they're kind of tart, but when you cook them, they get sweet and they're really good. And I just thought it'd be something cool and different. I don't know how much I'll sell them, but I want them for myself. Anyway, it's getting windy, the storm's rolling in, and I'm gonna go home.